Hello, welcome to Beyond Gallery Walls. I'm Patric Stillman, gallery owner of the Studio Door.
And I'm Redin Winter, studio artist at the Studio Door.
This month I thought we would talk about gallery presentation. So many artists spend time thinking about their art, spending hours and hours in their studio creating something beautiful or thought-provoking. And then when it comes to actually bringing their art to the gallery, they have lost their thread. It's like they don't really think about it. And then a lot of times artists will just sort of chuck their art through the door and go, okay, now it's yours, and walk away. And that's really not what it's all about.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't ever think when I first started, I never thought about those next steps. It was always just get the work done, work on the work, I'm an artist, I'm in my space, I'm doing my thing. And then I really honestly actually didn't think about it for quite a while until I came here and I was a new studio artist and you asked for some help to just unpack all the art for one of the exhibitions. And I was like, sure, that would be fun. I've never done that. And I came in and all the boxes are out and stuff. And I started to look just about how things were packaged, how the art was framed, how the art was presented. And I'm opening these things up and I'm like, wait, are none of us thinking about this? This is so important because this is the showing of it.
Right?
This is outside of your studio space now, and people's eyes are actually visually on it, and you haven't really thought about the matting or the D-rings or any of that kind of stuff. And it was a huge wake-up call for me.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it is shocking. And I've been in the gallery business for a long time, and so I see it repeatedly, from exhibit to exhibit. And I hope that there are people that are listening today that really get the message. Art is the art itself, the actual physical work, whether it's a painting or a 3D work like a ceramic piece or handling glass, represents you as an artist when you're not in the room. So it's really important that you do those finishing touches. I was just thinking that if you're going out on a date, you don't show up in your sloppy pajamas that you've been gaming in for 3 days and all stinky and you put yourself together and you're ready to present yourself to another person, right? And say, look, I'm pulled together. And I think it's the same thing with art. You need to think about the details. We say it 100 times, right? It's all about building relationships.
Right.
And so it's really important what you're communicating, even if you're not in the room.
Yeah, I think that the idea of the communication, I think it's important for artists to put a little bit more thought, or thought at all, into the presentation because it's part of it. It's part of the art. So whatever the image is, whether it's a sculpture, whether it's how it's presented, can actually create even more thought into the art piece itself. So I've been intrigued, I've gone to museums, I've gone to art exhibitions where I'm intrigued by just the way it's displayed. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, wait, the way it's displayed is sort of taking it's part of it, it's part of the art. It's all part of the art, right? So how it's framed, if you are choosing a different sort of way to have it hung or displayed on a stand, I think some of that could be thought out a bit in terms of how it communicates. If you paint on a thick canvas, the edges, do you want the painting to go wrap around the edges or don't you? Do you want it to be a solid color? Do you not want it painted at all because that's actually something that you're trying to have a discussion about? But again, think these things through, not just here you go, here's a piece, figure out what to do with it. I don't know. I painted it, I created it, now that's your job to figure out how to stick it on a wall.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you step back to like you were talking about, receiving the artwork in the gallery, this is the first step that artists sometimes miss. Do they show up in the artworks in a baggie, or, trash bag?
Oh, right.
Or it's shipped in a box that they've used a million times and the box is crumbling and torn and ripped. This is creating an immediate subliminal message to the gallery staff about what you think of your art.
Yep.
When I receive something that is, maybe it's got foam, let's say a painting, and it's got this cutout and the painting fits into the foam and it has a top, like a cardboard top with more foam, that opens up and it's a professional presentation. I think, wow, this artist realizes that this is an important work of art and is immediately communicating to me, handle with care.
Yes, yeah.
I've had artists, especially those from sort of a college background or ones that are just stepping out of college, that maybe have gone an inexpensive route. They're working on paper and they'll send me a message, even though in our statement, our prospectus to the artist, it says, ready, gallery ready to hang. They're like, well, I work on paper and I just use, nails with magnets or push pins, and you can do that too. And I'm like, I can't imagine anybody who's going to spend hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars on a piece and take it home and put push pins in their wall. And so they're missing the connection to the patron, or they're communicating something that they don't intend to the patron about the value of their art.
Yeah, it's about perceived value, right? So as you were saying, and there are inexpensive ways to present and package works, but still have it be presented in sort of a space of value. You were mentioning like the packaging with the foam. That can be quite expensive,
right?
But you can make your own. I know people who've like taken like the mattress pads, and cut them out and done, there's ways that you can DIY something together that still, when you open that box, the person that's opening that box goes, okay, this is somebody who values their work, packages it with care, so now I'm going to package it with care. However, when I experienced that first time and we were unboxing so many things, and those ones that took that care, you saw immediately. But the other ones, it was like, there'd be things crammed in there, and I was going, where's the art? And I'm trying to be really careful myself to not do anything to damage the piece. And it does. It sort of renders you in this weird way, like, my goodness, do they not even care if this makes it to the gallery? And we're just talking about shipping,
Which is also a thing at the gallery level that's like, sometimes it can just be heartbreaking to open up these works and then find them damaged because of improper care.
Right. But moving forward, and even into that, what you're talking about, that connection between the artist, the gallerist, and the idea that this is for patrons to see and be displayed on the walls. I think it's really important with all of the relationships that happen in that sort of triangular one. The artist is considering that when they're deciding how to frame or how to display or how, even what hardware they use on the back of, if they are a frame type of artist, the hardware they're using on the back. If you're using that little tiny one that has the hammer and nail, a lot of galleries aren't going to want to even hang that up because it puts a hole in their wall. Many people have gallery systems where it's hanging. So considering D-rings, also maybe talking to the gallerist, right? About, okay, so that this is the exhibition. How are you displaying this piece so that I can have it ready for you in the way that you display it? Oh, you don't use D-rings. Maybe you use, I don't know.
Let's just go through a practical checklist here.
Yes, practical checklist.
So I think that when it comes to 2D art, there are things to consider, and that are, is it completely finished and ready to hang? Which means that you've thought about the framing and matting, if you're using framing and matting. So if you go out and you buy the cheapest frame you can find, and you put your artwork in there and you're asking for thousands of dollars, that message is garbled. And so that needs to be thought through. If it's unframed, did you finish the sides? Is it gallery wrapped? Or are the sides unfinished? They should not be unfinished unless that's truly an integral part of the piece. And then on the hanging side, let me also say on the framing, most galleries will say black frame, white matte, no exceptions. And that's just a tradition among galleries. But of course, every gallery is run by a different person. There are no set standards. So some galleries, like the Studio Door, will accept color mats and color frames if, again, it's enhancing the work of art.
Right.
And then on the flip side, those are, I don't know what those are called, those metal things with the little teeth.
Like the teeth, yeah.
That is, again, like a cheap expression of how to hang a piece of work. It's low end. And the proper way would be D-rings and wired.
Yes.
Why wired? Because you want that patron to go home with it and be able to put it on the wall and start thinking about the next piece they want from you. You don't want them getting home and then going, oh, I don't have anything to hang this, and they have to go to the hardware store, and then they constantly move away from you and your art. So the hardware you're using is very important. And then also, if it's appropriate, there should be a certificate or information that goes along with the piece for the patron. So these are all things I think that can be easily summed up in thinking about, you go to the mall and you're gonna drop some money on some jewelry or Apple products or something, right? You expect that packaging to look rich. You know, if you're going to a yard sale and you're buying, a t-shirt for $2, yeah, that can be in a brown paper sack, right? But if you are going into a high-end store at the mall and buying a t-shirt, you expect, a branded nice bag, or if it's a real high-end, you want, that Tiffany bag, or you want that, something that says about the value of what's inside. And so I think that those are ways that we communicate to the patron about not only how we see the art, but the value they're getting.
Yeah, and one of the things I would mention about the frames, because again, I've done this, I've had this happen to me. I say the minute you get into an exhibition, maybe this piece has been sitting around somewhere in the closet, or maybe it's been on your wall, wherever the piece has been, pull it down, take a good look at it. Because I myself have, packaged it up all nice, and I brought it down to the gallery, and it unpacks, and I go, oh my gosh, I didn't even see all those dings, or I didn't see that there's a big white mark here that was missed. Like, double check your work, because again, it's going on a wall for people to come by and see it, and depending on, what, honestly, I don't even care what the price is that's listed. If it's $50, it's $100, if it's $3,000, if I'm purchasing it, I want it ready to go. I want to take it home, and I want to be able, I just got to put a nail in or a screw or whatever I'm going to use and hang it up, and ooh, wait, do I want to put it somewhere else? Again, as an art collector, as I am, that's what I want to do. If I'm like, I got to make a trip to Home Depot, and I've got to do this and do that, I'm just like, come on, that should all be part of the cost. And if you have to up your painting cost by $5 because for D-rings and wires, which are not that expensive, up it then. To cover your costs as an artist. But when you present it, present it as you understand the value of the work. Because if you as an artist don't understand the value of your own work and present it as such, you're not going to have buy-in from other people.
I absolutely agree. I think that if you want to sell your art,
Right.
then you need to be thinking of the through line, which means that you're working with the gallery, the art needs to be ready for them, and you want it to get into a patron's home or work space. They're inviting you into their lives, and you want that piece for everyone who sees it in that setting. You want to be proud of it. You want people to see it and wish that they had that. You want them to desire your work.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make more sales. You want to have the world embrace you as an artist. Then you need to actually step up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't agree more.
So I think that it's easy to just be focused on the art because that is what is most satisfying. But I think it's really important that if you want to get into the sales arena of the art spectrum, then you need to think about that. Think about how it's arriving into the gallery. Think about how it's being passed to the patron.
Yeah, and and for me also, it's that idea, like, is it framed the best way, or is it going to be displayed the best way? Is there a way that you can sort of assist in really presenting the work to make it an even stronger piece? Because that's going to be what people see. They're seeing the whole thing.
Right.
Together. They're not going, oh, well, there might be some people actually who go, wow, that's a terrible frame, but gosh, I love that piece. There might be some people who are doing that. But again, first impressions of the gallery or gallery staff that open up that package and look and see the work for the first time.
Right.
That they're taking space wherever in their gallery to show. The first impression of when the patrons walk into the space and see it on a pedestal, hanging on the wall, first impressions are huge. They may not buy it right then and there.
Right.
May take them a little while to decide on that, but first impressions are huge. So when you step back from your own work, whatever it is, is it conveying and doing what it needs to do? All components included.
Right. It's about, what does it say, that capitalizing your T's and crossing your I's.
Oh, right. Dotting your I's, crossing your T's.
That's it.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure that you take care of the whole package. And the end result of that is actually the reward. So, it's a drag to have to deal with all those details, but if you get your work out in the world and somebody wants to, showcase you, then you have absolutely made that connection with the patron. And everything's built on relationships. And, if the patron feels like, wow, not only did this artist make this beautiful thing that I'm proud to have in my home, but if they feel like you took care of all those details, then they have an expectation that they want to come back to you because they know what they're going to get, as opposed to the opposite experience, which is, oh, I got this piece and I had to, wire it. I had to, they're probably in an uncomfortable world all of a sudden, screwing nails into things or whatever, right? And so that causes a level of anxiety.
Yeah.
And, then they're going to be thinking about, well, I really like their work, but I don't really want to go through all that yet.
Or, worst case scenario, it's not prepared, you used a cheap frame, they go and start trying to figure it out and they don't necessarily know maybe what they're doing, or they do know, but it's a cheap frame. They split the frame. Now, all of that experience is connected to you as an artist.
Yeah.
They're thinking, that's what is just going through your mind. It's human nature. We're just going to think about that experience and, oh, this broke, or, oh, I opened up this package and there was all of this stuff flying out of it. I don't even know what it is. All of those small details connect to the experience, and people remember all of those things. And sometimes they only remember the more negative stuff than the positive. So the less amount of any sort of negativity that could be set up for them, let's lessen that, the better, right? If it's all ready to go, maybe they just stubbed their thumb to put the nail in, But again, like let's take all of that, let's make them feel cared for and show them that we value our art because we're asking them to value our art.
Exactly. And hopefully you're working with a gallery who's giving you information on who's buying your work. And, the last extra step may not be about the physical piece, but it's about connecting to that patron, saying thank you, sharing a story about the art, or giving them the information on how they can find you online, or anything that can enhance the experience and build the relationship.
Yeah.
So I think that, when you're working with galleries and you're thinking about selling your work, go ahead and take those extra steps. You're gonna really be happy with the results of what happens next.
Yeah, definitely think of the details. As an artist, sometimes we finish the work and we're like, oh, finally got that over with. I've been struggling on that one, whatever the case may be. But, just take the time to really think about it, how you are presenting it, whatever your art is, how are you presenting it? Okay.
We look forward to seeing you next time beyond gallery walls.
Thank you for tuning in.